Hi, I'm Pam Fox at pamfox.org, and I'm streaming live today on YouTube into the Reflux Facebook group. Reflux is the name of my cookbook that I published earlier this year. It is an ebook, it's available on Amazon, and it is all plant-based recipes that eliminate common triggers for reflux. And about once a week or so, I come into this group, Reflux, which you can go to Facebook and request to join. It's called Reflux, where I just share. Today I have an email from Sue, and she has a couple of questions that we're going to talk about. So we'll just read through the email and then we'll go from there. So Sue says, let's get down to the. Okay, just wanted to ask you when you started taking acid supplements. Was it after you had reversed your hiatal hernia? I believe I have low stomach acid and have seen a naturopath who also is of that opinion. I have been doing your exercises and can feel some movement and even felt a pop and was convinced I had reversed my hernia, but alas, I'm getting the reflux again. She says, well, it is more of a sour taste in my mouth rather than the heartburn. She says, I'm also using the iCoro to strengthen my upper and lower esophageal sphincters. And then she goes on from there. But I mostly want to focus on um, the stomach acid supplementation. We're going to talk a little bit about that. We're going to talk about reoccurring heartburn, and I will talk a little bit about the iCoro, although I've done an entire video on that, so I'm not going to get too much into it. Well, truthfully speaking, I've done videos on all of these things, but it's just really important when you're learning about your condition, when you're trying to learn about your body and why it's doing these things, why you're having these symptoms, to try to figure out what kind of things you can do to overcome these symptoms. Sometimes you have to revisit these things over and over and over in order for it to start to really click and for you to be able to kind of go, yeah, that makes sense. And then even to remember, how that works. So let's revisit hydrochloric acid supplementation. So Sue is referring to a supplement that you can take that is literal hydrochloric acid, or the equivalent of the acid that you have that your body makes that's in your stomach, that is responsible for primarily digesting your food, right? Breaking down the initial food that drops into the stomach, um, and preparing it to go into the digestive tract, into the intestines. Um, and so there is a supplement that people take, and it's actually taking hydrochloric acid tablets to increase or strengthen your stomach acid. And so a lot of people that are new to this idea think, that's crazy. I have reflux. Why would I take more acid? I'm taking pills to reduce my acid. And so this is a phenomenon that's very mysterious and very curious. I know the first time I heard of it, it kind of blew my mind. And the idea is that by taking the supplementation that increases or boosts your stomach acid, it kind of, in a sense, helps create that homeostasis that your body is always trying to create, in the form of, that balance of the perfect amount of stomach acid, or all throughout your body we have this homeostasis that the body is always trying to achieve. And unfortunately, sometimes those balances can become imbalanced in so many different areas. I mean, right off the top of my head, hormonal imbalance is one that we're very familiar with, where maybe as we start to age, our body starts to create a new balance and production of these hormones, and you can have what we call an imbalance. And so why would that happen? Why would my body not just generate the perfect amount of hormones so that I don't have these symptoms that's being created by this imbalance? And so we have to take a look at that. And when it comes to the stomach and the amount of stomach acid that the body produces, and that's the other misconception, I think. Some people think that their stomach acid, when they take this supplement, in order to address their reflux, their GERD, their reflux, they might try taking an acid supplement, because they think their acid is weak. The acid doesn't become weak necessarily. It's the body's not producing the copious amounts that maybe it did when you were younger, right? And so then you take the supplement to boost that. And what oftentimes happens, at least this is my understanding, is through taking that supplementation, not only does it increase your stomach acid, but it helps the body kind of generate its own ability to start producing more stomach acid. And then you don't have to take that supplement long term. It's kind of a short term experimentation, really, with the hydrochloric acid supplements. And so getting back to this idea, well, why would I take more stomach acid when my doctor is giving me a pill to reduce acid? And this is the thing that's really, really important to understand. If you're new to GERD, if you're new to reflux, if you have these different digestive issues and you're just, addressing it with a pill, like with a proton pump inhibitor, with an acid reflux medication, these are highly prescribed medications. Many, many, many hundreds of thousands of people take these medications all around the world. And what they do, like a proton pump inhibitor specifically, what it does is it inhibits your body's production of stomach acid. Okay? And so in so doing that, it may or may not, but oftentimes it's effective at reducing or eliminating the symptom of reflux, right? Which is the acid coming back up through that one-way valve into the esophagus and beyond. You can even have regurgitation or vomiting. Some people that have, more severe reflux. Some people just have a little bit of heartburn, down lower by the heart. Others have issues with their throat. So it can be different for everybody, but the doctors will prescribe a proton pump inhibitor to inhibit the amount of stomach acid so that you can reduce or eliminate reflux. That's the point of it. But it's really important to understand, and I think doctors are making a better effort today to help their patients understand this, whereas like 15, 20 years ago and beyond, there was no education with these medications. People would get prescribed a proton pump inhibitor and they would take it for 10, 15, 20 years, right? They'd be on this medication. And it's important, and like I said, I think doctors are making more of an emphasis, and they have better understanding that these medications should not be taken long term. And so then you say, well, what am I going to do? Like, is it going to cure my reflux? Well, no, it's not. Usually it does not cure reflux. And so then what am I going to do once I go off a proton pump inhibitor? So, and there's really no answer from the doctors. Really what they'll do is they'll just put you on the newest medication or a variance of that medication so that you're not taking that same medication long term. But what I want to say is the really important thing to understand is that when it comes to GERD, when it comes to reflux, and when it comes to all digestive disorders, or most digestive disorders, if not all, there are underlying issues that are causing these symptoms. It's not just, oh, I have too much acid, therefore take a pill to reduce my acid. The problem was never that you had too much acid, right? We need good, strong stomach acid in, high volumes to be able to effectively digest our food. Stomach acid is our friend. Stomach acid is a good thing. Stomach acid is something the body naturally creates every single day so that you can optimally break down the food before it goes into the intestines, right? If the food is going into first of all, if you have low stomach acid and the food is digesting really slow, you're going to have issues with bloating, regurgitation, and then if it's going into the digestive tract and it's not optimally broken down, then you've got large particles going through the digestive tract, through the intestines, which can result in more bloating, can result in blockages, can result in cramping, stomach pain, and of course constipation. So it's important that we have good, strong stomach acid. So these proton pump inhibitors, while I believe there is a time and a place for them, everybody knows they're overly prescribed. I mean, they're way overly prescribed. And unfortunately, a lot of people take them for a long period of time. And then what happens is, if you take them for a long period of time, you can start to have deficiencies because the food isn't being optimally broken down, which means once it gets into the digestive tract or into the intestines where absorption occurs, right, of the nutrients from the food, then you're not going to have that optimal absorption of nutrients. So you can see how taking these medications long term can start to create other issues. They were never meant to be a cure for reflux. That's never been their point. They're meant to give you relief from these symptoms. And if you have something like, a stomach ulcer, something like that, that's a good time and a place for a proton pump inhibitor, because you want to reduce that acid in the stomach in order to give that ulcer time to heal. But again, all of these digestive issues are signs and symptoms of a greater underlying condition, which is almost always, these conditions are a result of what you're putting in your body. The food you're eating, the beverages, the drugs, the water that you drink, toxicity from what you're putting in your body is starting to damage, irritate the digestive system. And as a result of injury, what do we get? We get inflammation. And so once we have inflammation, we have compromised tissues, we have compromised function of organs, and we have disease, and we have symptoms, because our body's trying to tell us there's something wrong here, you need to do something different. So getting back to the stomach acid supplementation, I'm not going to say you should go out and take a stomach acid supplementation, because they work really well for some, they don't for others, and they make issues worse for others. So what I would recommend is that you do look into it, work with your doctor, particularly like more of a naturopath will work with you and supervise a prescribed hydrochloric acid supplementation experimentation. That being said, when I experimented with hydrochloric acid, I just did it on my own. I did my own research. I asked a lot of questions in all of the many different Facebook groups that you can join for these different digestive diseases, right? You can go onto Facebook and you can search GERD, or you can search gastritis, or you can search hiatal hernia, or you can search LPR, and you can join some of these different support groups, which there's going to be good and bad advice in all those groups, of course, but you can talk to different people and ask the question, or you can go into the search bar and type in hydrochloric acid and see what people are saying, see how it worked out for them, and kind of get a better idea. That's what I did. Get a better idea of, or go into Amazon and read some of the different reviews for hydrochloric acid supplementation. Again, you're not always going to get the truth in these different places, but it's going to start to give you kind of a better idea as you gather more information. And going back to that, for me personally, Sue's question is, when did you take hydrochloric acid supplementation? Was it before, during, or after you reversed your hiatal hernia? And my recollection is that my journey to reverse my hiatal hernia was a long one, and I was starting to get results and really beginning to get a better understanding when I discovered this theory that you could take hydrochloric acid supplementation for your reflux. And I had already began to get a lot of results in terms of eliminating my reflux, but I still had the chronic belching, quite a bit of indigestion, which is just a kind of for me, indigestion wasn't so much reflux and regurgitation as it was that feeling of nausea, not feeling quite so well, having that uneasy feeling in and around your stomach where you just feel sick, and you feel like if I could just have a really big burp or go throw up, I might feel all better, but then it doesn't. And a lot of that has to do with the hiatal hernia as well. And once I was able to fully reverse my hiatal hernia, I was able to overcome those particular symptoms. But when I experimented, for me personally, when I experimented with hydrochloric acid supplementation, and I'm going to talk about how I did that specifically in this video, but I did notice, for sure, I noticed improvement where I could eat a very specific trigger food, right? One of my specific trigger foods. After taking the hydrochloric acid before that meal, and I noticed that I felt fine. I didn't have indigestion. I was a big fan of these pills. Okay, so here's how they work. And I'm not going to recommend a particular brand or anything like that. You can go over to Amazon and kind of read through the different reviews of some of these different brands. I took one that was vegan because I'm vegan, and I took one that had no pepsin in it, which is one of the reasons that makes it vegan. Um, but even if you're not vegan, I would suggest that you avoid pepsin if you have GERD, but particularly if you have LPR. Okay, you don't want to be adding in more pepsin, in my opinion, if you have LPR. Okay, so how it works is you take one tablet with your largest meal right before you eat the meal, like just right as you sit down to start eating the meal. So it puts that additional acid into your stomach, and it's there in the stomach, kind of doing its thing as the food comes in. Okay. Um, and the theory behind why this works, and I don't know that this is true, but it makes sense to me. I have a lot of questions about this theory that arise. We won't get too much into that. All that to say, I'm not really sure why it works for some people and why it doesn't in terms of eliminating the symptoms of reflux. But the theory is that in the presence of good, strong, healthy stomach acid, that little lower esophageal sphincter, that one-way valve, really tightens up in the presence of good, strong, plentiful stomach acid. And so if you take if you have, and if you have what people are calling low stomach acid, which is where your body's not producing quite as much stomach acid as it used to, and I'm going to talk a little bit about natural ways we can produce, not produce, but stimulate the production of stomach acid. We'll talk about that next. But in the presence of strong, plentiful stomach acid, that valve tightens up nice and tight so that you can't have reflux. That's the theory. That's why they say people who get good results with this supplementation, that's why they do. Okay, so you take one tablet with your biggest meal as you sit down to eat, like before you start eating, and then you pay attention to what you feel in your stomach. Are you feeling a burning sensation? It's not reflux. It's, are you feeling a burning sensation in your stomach? Okay. And usually with one tablet, you don't feel anything. Okay. So the reason we ask this question, do I feel a burning sensation in my stomach, is because once you have too much stomach acid in your stomach, you will feel a burning sensation in your stomach. And so the protocol is that you take one tablet on day one with your biggest meal. Pay attention to see if you feel a burning sensation. If the answer is no, I don't feel a burning sensation, then the next day you take 2 tablets with your biggest meal. And then you pay attention. Do I feel a burning sensation in my stomach? And you can also pay attention to, am I having reflux as a result of increasing the stomach acid? These are all going to be, little signals to let you know how if this is or is not working. So if the answer is no, I still don't feel any burning sensation in my stomach, then day 3, you take 3 tablets with your largest meal, and you just keep repeating that process. And here, again, if you go into some of these different support groups and you listen to different people's experiences, here is what you'll find. Very rarely will someone feel that burning sensation with 1 tablet because it's not a high dose. Sometimes they'll feel it with 2 tablets. And what that means is you've kind of overdosed on acid, and your body's letting you know that with the pain sensation in your stomach. And then if you want to continue with the protocol, you would back it down and take 1 tablet every day with your largest meal for a couple of weeks and see how you do. See if your symptoms of reflux subside. Or in the case of other people who definitely have extremely low stomach acid, what they will find is they'll get to day 3 and to day 4 and to day 5, and they're up to like maybe 5 tablets or 6 tablets or even 7 tablets. I had someone tell me before they felt that burning sensation. And if you feel that burning sensation in your stomach, it's not going to kill you. What you can do once you do feel that burning, it is a little uncomfortable. It's not like painful. It's just like this mild burning sensation in your stomach because you've got all that acid and it's so strong, it's eating away at the lining of your stomach. It's too strong. So what you can do is neutralize that by having some alkaline water ready. You can pick up a bottle of alkaline water, and when you experience that burning in your stomach, you can drink some alkaline water. and that will neutralize that acid, so you're not feeling that burning sensation. Or you can make your own alkaline water by putting a pinch of baking soda in some water and drinking that. So that's the protocol. Um, 1 tablet on day 1, 2 tablets on day 2, 3 tablets on day 4. And the minute you feel that burning sensation, and you'll know it when you feel it, it's like, okay, there it is. I feel a burning in my stomach. Neutralize the burning sensation, and then the next day you back it down to whatever you took the day before, and that is your dosage. That's your dosage. So some people it'll be 1 tablet a day, some people it'll be 3 tablets a day. It'll be different for every person, because you want to take the amount that's going to boost your the stomach acid in your stomach to that healthy level without it burning you, and that's going to be your diagnosis. And then ideally, this was my experience, and it's been many people's experience, you will get a reduction in your reflux symptoms because your LES is tightening up like it's supposed to, and you will get over time your body will start to produce more stomach acid on its own without you taking this supplementation. Now, there are a lot of caveats to this. I mean, one, if you don't have low stomach acid in the first place, it's not going to help. 2, if you've got a lot of illness in your digestive system, adding in more acid might just cause more irritation and inflammation and make things worse. That certainly happens. If you have a stomach ulcer, you do not want to take hydrochloric acid supplementation. And I feel a real strong need to say that twice. If you have a known or even suspect you have a stomach ulcer, don't supplement with hydrochloric acid. It's going to make your ulcer worse. And if you're on a prescribed proton pump inhibitor, there is no point of taking an acid stomach or a stomach acid supplement. The proton pump inhibitor is neutralizing or inhibiting your body's ability to produce acid, and now you're putting more acid in. So I don't know, I would think the two would kind of just cancel each other out. So there's no point in doing that if you're already taking a proton pump inhibitor to inhibit your body's production of stomach acid. But I do believe in this. It was a positive experience for me. I took a full course, which is to say I went through a full bottle of hydrochloric acid supplementation, which took me about a month. I bought another bottle, and I got through about half of that before I just stopped altogether, because I got to the point where I was taking 3 with a meal, and then after a couple of weeks, I felt that burning sensation, so I backed it down to 2 with a meal. And after another week, I felt the burning sensation, so I backed it down to 1 with a meal. And then it was like, I don't think I even need to take this anymore, so I stopped taking it altogether. So that combined with reversing my hiatal hernia and already getting results with that, adding in the hydrochloric acid supplementation, I believe was very, very helpful. Now, let's move on to part 2 of this question, because Sue is saying that she's had some good results with reversing her hiatal hernia and eliminating her symptoms, but then the symptoms came back. The reflux came back, and she mentions that it's a little bit different. She's got a sour taste in her mouth instead of the acid reflux, the traditional acid reflux, which happens. That happens. But what I want to say about that is, when it comes to reversing your hiatal hernia and thinking, oh, I reversed my hiatal hernia, maybe like she says, she really felt the stomach move down and out of the esophagus. She got some results, but then the reflux eventually came back. This happens. It totally happens. It even still happens to me on occasion. And what you have to really understand about your anatomy is that lower esophageal sphincter. If it is not able to clamp down tight, you can have reflux, regurgitation, indigestion, nausea, all of these symptoms if that valve is not able to clamp down tight. Why would that valve not be able to clamp down tight? Well, I've talked about a number of reasons. Intragastric pressure, which can be caused by a hiatal hernia, it can be caused by bloating, it can be caused by overeating, it can be caused by a whole long list of things, can cause intragastric pressure that puts pressure on that valve and makes it hard for that valve to clamp down tight and keep the contents in the stomach. So whether you have a hiatal hernia or not, you can have a reoccurrence of reflux. It might be the stomach pushing against the lower esophageal sphincter and not necessarily through. Or you may have re-herniated your hernia. That happens a lot as well, and it's why so many doctors don't like to do surgical hiatal hernia repairs, because there are so many different things that can put pressure on that stomach and push it up into the hiatus and have a reoccurrence of a hiatal hernia. So that's why it's so important to understand all of the different things that cause and support a hiatal hernia, because you may be doing them on a daily basis. So there's a lot to understand when it comes to these digestive conditions. They're so holistic and multifaceted. But certainly you can try experimentation with hydrochloric acid supplementation. My best advice is to do it under the medical supervision of your doctor. With that being said, that's not what I did, but of course I have to say that because I don't want anybody out there to hurt themselves, and I certainly don't want to be responsible for somebody hurting themselves. And again, if you suspect or know you have a stomach ulcer, do not do it. Don't do it. Now, I wanted to mention, in terms of your diet, if you are eating a lot of naturally whole plant foods in particular, a healthy diet that is rich in whole plant foods, it doesn't mean they have to be raw, but if you're eating a diet that is primarily comprised of whole plant foods, fruits, vegetables, legumes, beans, whole grains, nuts and seeds, these are going to help your body establish and create a natural healthy production of stomach acid. Believe it or not, that helps. Fermented foods are very helpful in creating a natural production of a good amount of stimulating that production of stomach acid. With that being said, I know a lot of you that have reflux can't tolerate fermented foods. Some do, some don't. So if you know that you can't tolerate fermented foods, then that's not going to be an option for you. And there are some other things as well. I mean, juicing has been known. This is all anecdotal, of course, because no long-term studies have been done, but juicing has been known to help stimulate all of that rich, dense, nutrient-dense juice that you can make, filled with organic, whole fruits and vegetables. All of that kind of bombardment of nutrients to the digestive system can help promote a healthy production. And why would that stimulate? It's not that it stimulates the production necessarily, like, oh, all these nutrients are coming in, we need more acid. It's not that. It's really, again, what I was saying before, is stimulating that homeostasis within the digestive system, right? So when we have an imbalance due to poor diet or whatever it is, things just get off kilter. When we start introducing in a healthy diet rich in these whole plant foods, preferably organic, that homeostasis begins to occur. That balance where the body produces the perfect amount of stomach acid, digestive enzymes. We start to bring back that healthy flora in the gut microbiome when we eat more whole plant foods. Fruits and vegetables are, they're coined a prebiotic. What does that mean? It means they are the literal fuel that feeds these healthy flora in our microbiome, right? So we need to be eating plenty of whole plant foods. Again, fruits, vegetables, beans, nuts, seeds, and whole grains. These are the foods that feed those beneficial bacteria that help us be healthy and help us, not get sick. So briefly, I just wanted to touch on, I feel like there was something else I wanted to say, but I did want to touch on the iCoro, which Sue mentions here that she's using, and I did a video on that. I don't know a whole lot about it. The only research that's been done, the research that's been done on the iCoro device is very positive. It is very, very positive. The research that's been done on the iCoro device has all been done by the creators of the iCoro. Does that mean you disregard it, the research? No, not necessarily. I mean, we don't know. We don't know if the research is truthful or not. I mean, there's no way to know unless we try, right? Excuse me just for a second. Turn my heater down. So Sue is using the iCoro, and the device is meant to your upper and lower esophageal sphincters, right? It's like a little exercise device to help strengthen, because the tissues of the esophagus and those little muscle sphincters of the esophagus, they're not skeletal muscle. It's not like, when you want to build your bicep, you put a weight in your hand and you pump weight, right? Because we can build skeletal muscle. Well, with smooth muscle tissue, we don't have the ability to do that. And so there's this device that's meant to kind of do that. And so whether it works or not, I don't know. Again, the only way to know is to try it. And she's trying it. As far as I can tell, it can only be purchased in, the last I heard when I did my video, which was over a year ago, it could only be purchased in the UK, but they were working on it being purchased worldwide. So I don't know if that's changed, but a lot of people were finding a friend in the UK to buy it and then mail it to them. So it's something to look into. It's certainly something to look into. But again, if you have an underlying habit that's creating these issues, right? If you have a habit, a daily habit, let's say smoking, let's say you smoke cigarettes. Let's say you take a medication that's causing your lower esophageal sphincter to relax and dilate. Let's say you're eating a diet that constantly, daily causes constipation, bloating, inflammation. If you have all these underlying lifestyle habits and you're not addressing those, do you really think you're going to overcome these conditions, right? By taking a supplementation or by using a device that strengthens, maybe for some people it may do the trick, but then later on down the road, these symptoms may arise again, right? Because the body, it works nonstop trying to create that harmony and that homeostasis of good health, of good, perfect health. But it can only work so hard and so long before disease starts to kind of catch up and overcome that process. So it's really, really important that we understand this and that we ask the questions, what am I doing? What am I doing that's supporting my disease? And what can I do to support my healing? Because it's almost always, when it comes to chronic degenerative diseases, and really I'm starting to believe beyond those diseases, really like, we won't get into that, but when it comes to these chronic diseases, which are, your heart disease, diabetes, cancer, the main biggies that are killing the most people in this world, we have to take a look at what we're doing and not just say, oh, I have it because it's hereditary, or whatever. We have to take a look at what we're doing. And that comes down to lifestyle. Am I making sleep a priority? Am I hydrated? Do I care about the things that I put in my body? Am I careful about the things I put in my body? Food, beverages, drugs, including pharmaceutical drugs, and that's the thing. Like, all my life, I trusted pharmaceutical drugs, and I took a lot of pharmaceutical drugs because I've had a lot of health issues. And I just took the drugs, and I took the drugs, and I took the drugs. And I'll tell you what, I don't even know if I'd still be alive today. And that might sound melodramatic, but really, like, I was getting to the point where I was so exhausted all the time, I couldn't live my life. I mean, I'd probably just be in bed all day on unemployment, collecting unemployment. I don't know, like, it was getting bad. And a lot of that had to do with all of the drugs I was taking. They were making me sick. And I know a lot of people take plenty of drugs and they do fine, but, the pharmaceutical companies, the industry, big pharma, doesn't have a perfect track record. I mean, off the top of my head, there's Vioxx, Physomax, Fen-Phen. I mean, there's been a lot of drugs tested long-term, approved by the FDA, and then what happens a few years later? These drugs, they find out they're making people sick and they're even killing people, and so then they take them off the market and they develop a new drug to take its place. So we have to pay attention to what we're eating, what we're drinking, the medications that we're taking. The medications should never be meant to take long-term for the rest of your life just to address a symptom. They should be meant to be a short-term give you relief of some of your symptoms while you're addressing these underlying issues naturally and effectively, which means you have to look at what you're doing that's promoting disease. All right. I think that's it. We'll stop there. All right. Thanks so much for watching, guys. We'll see you next week.